Yeah, so what the title is. I had an absolutely horrifying trip, one of the most horrifying experiences of my life, but also I would say one of the most humbling. I can take away a lot from this bad trip. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that I've been a fairly consistent psychedelic user, posting trip reports 2 or 3 times a month for the past couple months. This was my third heroic dose of my life, my first heroic dose on psilocybin mushrooms, and my other two heroic doses were on LSD. For me, a heroic dose of mushrooms is so profoundly different than that of LSD. On LSD, I gained so many fascinating positive insights on humanity as a whole and how the universe works, and I felt a deep sense of connectedness to the earth. And it was such a positive feeling, but my sense of feeling on psilocybin was much more negative. On LSD, I felt like I was in third person looking at the world, but mushrooms for me felt like I was experiencing it all in first person. The mushroom showed me every possible feeling one can feel, from deep, connected, infinite love to complete torturing of the soul. The come up was nice, but once the peak came, shit turned bad. I lost all sense of reality, forgot who I was just completely and utterly gone. I felt like I was a god, as some like to phrase it, but I would like to think of it as I was the awareness of the universe. It's like my consciousness was thrust out of my body and into the collective universal consciousness. I wasn't one person or thing, but I was all persons and things. At this point, I thought I had ascended. I thought I had gone into the dimension higher up than this one. I thought I won the game of life, and now I'd stay here forever. In the previous video I did on LSD, I talked about how I felt like I was close to ascending to the next dimension, but I wasn't quite there. Well, now I was there. This feeling of proudness that I had ascended and won the game of life didn't last long, because soon I felt a dark energy consume me that brought me to one of the most psychologically painful experiences of my life. I was under the impression that I was about to undergo the worst form of torture a human being could possibly undergo. Like, think of the way people were tortured in the medieval ages. Yeah, that type of stuff. And I was under the impression that if this dark energy consumed me, all of humanity would die, and all the progress we've ever made, that I made in my life, all the beautiful things we've done as a species, would all cease to exist in an instant. For what felt like such a long time, but also such a short amount of time, I was fighting this dark energy in my brain. During this time, I was thinking of all the wonderful things humanity has achieved, and I was also thinking of all the greatest, most marvelous moments in my own life as well. I thought about the building of the pyramids, the migration to the Americas, industrialization, just all that stuff, and just how modernized our world has come to be. I also thought of some greatness in my life from my family, friends, romantic relationships, how every feeling I've had, every experience I've had has made me the beautiful person I am, and it felt so real that all of this was just about to cease to exist in an instant if this dark energy consumed me. I thought about my lineage, how my parents made me, my grandparents made them, and so on, and how somehow we all derive from one common ancestor. It's just crazy. But I wasn't only thinking about these good things. The worst, most brutal moments in humanity I also thought of as well, such as World War II and Hitler. While that stuff is so horrible and disgusting, those horrible events have turned our species into the beautiful thing it is today. The mushroom showed me what it's like to be in this hell-like conditions, what it's like to be tortured, being in a concentration camp. I hallucinated all of that, and I truly thought I was going to die. Like, the feeling was so real that I thought I was going to be tortured, perhaps to death. Up to that point, psychedelics had shown me mostly just positive things. They showed me what it's like to experience beautiful things in life, but they hadn't shown me the worst, most cruel, most disgusting, and vile things a human being could undergo. And Terence McKenna has talked about how psychedelics are so kind to new users, but as you go deeper and deeper, they show you darker and darker things, and this scares off many people from ever using them again. And this is actually what scared off McKenna himself as well. The next day I told myself that trip was so horrible that I'll never take psychedelics again. But now that I've had more time to think about it, no, it won't stop my psychedelic use forever, but I certainly won't be taking this often, and I will be dialing it back quite a bit. Anyways, this dark energy continued on inside my brain. I was mentally fighting it. I kept feeling so much pain. At one point, it felt like I was giving birth, literally, and the pain was excruciating. And even though it was all in my head, I felt the energy of pure creation. How beautiful and how painful it is. I felt like I was metamorphosizing like a caterpillar in a cocoon, soon to turn into a butterfly. Anyways, the painful darkness continued, and I sensed that I was beginning to win the battle with this darkness, and I came to a point where I knew I had won. But the only way to truly get it out of me was to purge, and this purge would come in the form of shitting and barfing it out. I had defeated dark energy, And I remember thinking I had just saved humanity for 26,000 years, and then the darkness will come back again, and I'll have to fight it again. But for now, I've won the battle. Now, I didn't actually shit or barf, but I certainly felt like I was for a long time. I mimicked the motion of throwing up so many times, and I even made barfing sounds. And I even felt my stomach tense up like you do when you barf. And basically, I was just barfing, just nothing was coming out. But I felt like what was coming out was this darkness that was inside of me. This can relate to people purging on ayahuasca, all the darkness within them leaving them, thus so they can be cleansed. And repressed feelings that I didn't even know I still had, things I didn't even know I remembered but were somehow still affecting me subconsciously came to the surface as I was, as I say, purging, even though nothing was really coming out. And I guess I mentally purged these repressed thoughts out. I was still not in touch with reality during this time at all. And I remember truly believing I was at an ayahuasca retreat purging myself. At another moment I thought I was on DMT, even though I've never tried DMT in my entire life. I thought that I was in a DMT trip, and in a short time I would wake up to see my friend holding a pipe and laughing at me. I remember saying out loud, I broke through on DMT, I broke through on DMT, even after I had mentally purged. I was still dissociated for a while afterwards, and I mean a while. I took the mushrooms just before 8 p.m., and even at 4:30 in the morning, I was still completely out of touch with reality. I have no idea how it had even happened because I thought mushrooms were supposed to only last like 5 hours or so. Yet 9 hours later, I still had no clue what was going on. And all the stuff I just talked about, the dark energy and the purging and all that, I couldn't tell you when that happened. I can tell you what time that happened. I don't know if it was 10:30, 11, 12, 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. I really don't know. Literally all sense of time just completely left me. Part of me almost wonders if I fell asleep after the 5 or so hours that it supposedly lasts, because I don't even know like how this is possible, because it was like I was asleep at some points later on in the trip. Like, can psilocybin induce that? I really don't know, and it just doesn't make sense how I was just completely out of touch with reality for 9 whole hours. Like, have you guys ever had a mushroom trip that's lasted the length of an acid trip or more? It just doesn't make sense to me. There's so much more from the trip too. The whole experience is like a dream. You don't know what happens when, you can hardly remember anything. I remember I was talking gibberish, like a combination of French and Chinese, just complete nonsense. My primal urge to reproduce was also so intense at one point. I remember standing up out of my bed, the lights were off, and somehow the blanket looked like a woman to me, and I proceeded to pretend to have sex with it. Shit was pretty crazy, and I don't know if this was because I was 8 days into No Nut November or what, and was really horny, but shit was pretty crazy. And I remember thinking, I gotta tell my boys I just had sex. But at that point, I literally couldn't find my phone anywhere and couldn't even find it for like 30 minutes after I woke up in the morning, so I didn't tell them. And that would have been really weird if I told them, because I didn't. The important part is I didn't actually, not though. I just thought I did, so I'm still going strong in November. So just to let you guys know, but yeah. But this trip really humbled me. I went through so much mental pain, and it'll take a lot of courage out of me to do that again. But in the end, it made me stronger. It made me a stronger person and cleansed me of some repressed thoughts that I didn't even know was still bothering me. I just can't comprehend how a completely natural, wild mushroom has the ability to show someone these fascinating concepts. I don't know why it is, I don't know what it is, but the mushroom shows us the most innate, intimate reality of what it means to be human. There's so many complex levels of being human and just consciousness as a whole, and mushrooms allows you to somehow feel like you've experienced it all. Mushrooms isn't as friendly as LSD, I would say, but it shows you what you need to see and it humbles the fuck out of you. I learned not to mess around with these substances. I had about 6 or 7 total psychedelic trips in about 2 months of time, 3 of them being heroic, and to be honest, that is way too much. I don't need to be doing that so much. This is something that should be experienced 1 or 2 times a year, if even that. But don't worry guys, I got so much plans for content on my channel, even though there won't be as many trip reports. Got a lot of stuff planned, so don't worry. But yeah, I finally know what a true bad trip is like. I always thought I knew the way around a bad trip. I heard advice like, oh, just give in to the medicine and you'll be fine. And I know what it feels like to give in, but it does go much deeper than that. Yeah, you need to give in to the medicine if you want to avoid a bad trip, but sometimes a bad trip is just unavoidable. The mushroom sometimes just simply has other plans. And if you're meant to experience something painful, then yeah, you will not have a pleasant experience. So anyways guys, thank you for sticking to the end of this video. If you're still here, you definitely enjoyed the video, so click that subscribe button. Seeing my subscriber count even go up by 1 makes me so happy, because right now I have like 49 subs. And also drop a like, help us promote the content. Thank you so much. I got a lot of stuff planned for the future. I love you all. Have a great day, and peace.